Hello, dear friends. Today we continue our acquaintance with the memoirs of the Wehrmacht general. In this part, we will learn about his opinion on the fierce battles near Moscow in the winter of 1941. Don't forget to rate the video, and let's get started. December 20th, 1941. Letter to his wife. The situation here is heating up. The situation is changing every hour. What was true just a moment ago is false an hour later. Everyone who sees what we are doing understands that only a miracle can save us. Whether God will grant us such a miracle, I do not know. Both the troops and we have done everything humanly possible to rectify the situation. But it is not in our power to change it without outside help. We must face the truth. December 20th. Today has brought only a worsening of the situation. It is becoming increasingly clear that we are gradually being surrounded. We are standing in a semicircle southeast of Kaluga, and the enemy is bypassing our flanks. We have no reserves to defend them. All requests and inquiries to higher authorities remain unanswered. It seems that one way or another, we will fall into the hands of the Russians. Today, Brauchitsch resigned as commander-in-chief of the land forces, and the Führer himself will now take command. But even he will not be able to turn the situation in our favor. I am deeply saddened that Hartmut had to go to the front at this moment. But it was God's will, and we must accept it. In the future, there will be many questions about the reasons for such a sudden turn of events, which threw us from what seemed to be the highest peak into the deepest abyss. The Russians were completely underestimated. On December 3rd, the Army group sent a telegram saying that all that remained was one last push and the enemy would be broken. He had no reserves left, but he still had the Siberian Army. He still had endless reinforcements that kept pouring into his battered troops. We, on the other hand, had had almost no reinforcements since the end of June, and since October, we had had nothing to eat, so we had to supply ourselves from the surrounding territory, if we could find anything. Our units had long since lost their best commanders and soldiers, and they stood in the middle of the Russian winter without proper winter clothing. One can only marvel at what these exhausted, outnumbered, lice-ridden, and weakened people have achieved. That's how it is. Now the Russian masses will simply surround and crush them. Bang, bang, and that's the end of the rabbit. December 22nd, letter to his wife. I have the opportunity to send you this letter by courier. I don't know when my letters from the last few days, sent by field mail, will reach you. Somewhere around December 8th or 9th, the Russians began their counterattack near Tula. Equipped with smart winter uniforms, they broke large holes in our front. Although we saw the looming threat of encirclement, we were constantly ordered from above to hold our ground. It would have been impossible to hold out surrounded, so we had to retreat. We marched through snow and ice, just like Napoleon in his time. The losses were similar. Apathy is spreading among the troops. The state of the army can only be described as deplorable. And once again, I find myself at the point where the Russians are pressing hardest. In fact, we are already completely surrounded. Yesterday the situation was hopeless. We expected a quick end in the cauldron. At the very last moment, Kluge gave permission for a new retreat. So our existence was prolonged a little longer. Only God knows how it will all end. We must entrust everything into His hands. Orders to hold our positions, demonstrating a lack of understanding of the real situation, probably come from the very top. First, in order to drag Japan into the war, and now, in order not to abandon it to its fate, failures cannot be acknowledged. To avoid them, we must hold out. This means a nasty end. The consequences will be far worse than if we had retreated 200 kilometers now. Day after day, the decision is delayed, which the enemy uses to its advantage, and which worsens our position. The seesawing of the current situation is simply unbearable. For 10 days now, I have been seeing impending doom, shouting, begging. You receive orders that are simply impossible to carry out. You are hanging over the abyss by a thread. Nothing helps. Nothing is seen from above. The consequences are unpredictable. Theoretically, I could have avoided the disaster that awaited my corps. I had to retreat 30 kilometers, but this was forbidden by the Army command. Besides, it would have meant retreating from our miserable positions into the bare snow. The troops, who were in a deplorable state, did not want this under any circumstances. I myself, perhaps this was a mistake, did not speak out against Kluge and Guderian, nor against the divisions, nor against my chief of staff, Colonel Schultz. As a result, when the situation became critical, Guderian, whose excellent command had brought us to this point, ordered us to hold our positions. It was already impossible to carry out this order. And yet, although there was no other option but to retreat, we could have retreated even further if the top brass had not hesitated. Keitel's hour has come. The morning is wiser than the evening. Going through all this and reflecting on the past years, I remember the expression, "Make no mistake, you cannot fool God." From the very top you fall into the abyss. I don't know what will happen next. Yesterday, when everything was hopeless, I read from Micah in the calendar. But I will look to the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Yesterday, he helped us at the last moment when there was no other salvation. I can only entrust everything to him. We can no longer fix anything with our own strength. Sleeping, eating, drinking, all that is behind us. Only our tightly stretched nerves are keeping us on our feet. But this is beyond our capabilities, day after day. Saving our lives like this and seeing no change ahead, no hope for the better. December 22nd, letter to my wife. Everything is rolling uncontrollably somewhere. We receive orders from above to hold our ground, while the Russians are constantly bypassing us. Yesterday, we were already half surrounded. Once again, we managed to pull our heads out of the noose. I don't know if we'll be able to do it a second time. In any case, my hopes are very slim. I pray to the Lord to help me. Without him, I don't know what to do. Christmas Eve, letter to my wife. We are in the grip of evil fate, and in Berlin, at the very top, they don't want to see it. Those whom the gods wish to punish, they first deprive of their sight. Every day we go through the same thing, but for reasons of prestige, no one is capable of taking the decisive step and retreating. They do not want to admit that their army near Moscow is almost completely surrounded. They refuse to realize that the Russians are capable of such a thing. And in their total blindness, they are teetering on the brink of disaster. They do not want to admit failure. And in 4 weeks, they will lose their army near Moscow, and later it will end in defeat in the war. Day after day, we feel the noose tightening around our necks. The Führer refuses to believe it. We ourselves, who are aware of the situation, are deprived of our last strength by the fact that they have been cutting us down piece by piece for 14 days now. Sometimes there is a 24-hour respite, and then another barrage of blows. No counterattack is successful because we are not in control of the situation. The initiative is in the hands of the enemy. It is a state of constant frustration, an unbearable situation. I received your Christmas parcels just in time for the holidays. Thank you for the Christmas gifts. I looked sadly at the beautiful packaging and so on. Ah, Trudel, how hard it is to bear such torment. December 25th. Today is my 55th birthday. Don't be afraid, says the calendar. You and Gazella are probably thinking of me right now, just as I am thinking of you. Since yesterday, new difficulties and new worries have flooded in again. I don't know how it will end. It is very difficult not to be afraid and not to lose heart. But I want to hope and think of old Jenny with her proverb. December 25th. Letter to my wife. My thoughts often wandered to you today. In my heart I live this day with you. Here too there are constant troubles. Our situation is getting worse. On our front, we constantly manage to repel Russian attacks. But the enemy can always outflank us on sleds and skis, which means they outmaneuver our sluggish little group. Just when we hope that there has been a pause, they outflank and outrun us again. It's an unbearable situation. We finally received permission to retreat. It's too late. It's hard to imagine how many vehicles, equipment, and weapons we will lose because of the snow-covered roads. They get stuck, slide into ditches, and can't be moved. In the entire First World War, I have never been in such a situation. It is depressing to the extreme. Thank God we are the only ones in this situation. A lone group threatened on all sides. I am sending my birthday present, a postcard showing our headquarters during the Russian campaign. On the back are the emblems of the divisions that fought under our command. How difficult these days are. How long will they last? Will it really be possible to settle everything? My head is buzzing with worries, big and small, with no end in sight. It's easy to buckle under this weight. January 2nd, 1942. Polotnyany Zavod. Letter to my wife. Today your parcel sent via Magdeburg arrived. I sincerely thank you for everything. As in the Christmas parcel I received for the holiday, all the gifts were lovingly packed by you. A golden candle in a wooden mug lights my way as I write these lines. The field post office is no longer working. Letters do not arrive because the enemy has captured the railways and now threatens to capture the highways. Perhaps there will still be a way to get this letter to you. I have not written anything for a whole week. I could not write because my worries were too heavy. I had neither the desire nor the thoughts to write anything. There was no opportunity to write. Our situation has not improved at all, but your letters in the parcel prompt me to write a reply. My corps is on the flank, which the enemy has surrounded since December 12th. With large, widely deployed forces, it stands deep in our rear. From the front, it attacks day and night. For many days we have had temperatures of 20 degrees, 30 degrees, and even 35 degrees below zero. Our troops are in a pitiful state. In addition to heavy losses, there is frostbite. No one knows how much longer we can hold out. Perhaps one day the troops will not be able to endure it. That is how bad our situation is. We saw this disaster coming weeks ago. More than 14 days ago, we sent a request to the top brass to finally give the order for a major retreat so that the army could break away from the enemy. If they had listened to us, everything could have turned out well. The Russians would not have been able to overtake us. But in response, we received instructions that we could not simply give up territory that had already been conquered. Now they fear a Napoleonic retreat and talk of fanatical defense, forbidding any retreat. So we were to be surrounded. Aid measures are as rare and small as a drop in the ocean, and always late. I myself was forced to hold positions that were already impossible to defend. Yesterday I told the commander that he himself could start counting down the days he would still hold out before being pushed south. He was sent here as a strong-willed man, so now, taking all circumstances into account, let him push our view to the top or declare that he is returning to command the Corps. The response was that everyone should stay where they are. Now Keitel is pretending to be strong-willed, but things will change for them too. It is so inexpressibly depressing when you see everything that is coming, the inevitability of it, and that all words are like peas against a wall, which means that fate will mercilessly carry out its verdict. In general, that is what will happen. I am no longer concerned about the general course of events. Changes are happening everywhere here. Corps and armies are changing their commanders day after day. Some have fallen ill. They are leaving one after another. Apparently, God has determined that I must endure everything. My beloved Trude, I have never gone through such times in my life. No one can say how this will end. One can only entrust one's fate to the Lord. He has not forsaken me until now, and He will help. What He promises, He fulfills. And so I entrust everything into His hands. He will show the way everywhere. I myself no longer see a way out. I know nothing about our Hartmut. Once again, we can only fold our hands in prayer and ask, Lord, help him. So that you know where everything is happening, in the Kaluga region. We lived in the burned-out city, which the enemy had already entered, from December 21st to 24th. Those were terrible days and nights. Our current location is called Palatniani Zavad. Gisela's praise made me very happy. Give her my regards and write to her on my behalf. I cannot do it myself right now. I am glad that you write that everything is fine with you. May it continue to be so. I wish this for you and Gisela with all my heart. January 3rd, letter to my wife. A car is leaving for the rear again in the morning. I am sending this letter with it in the hope that it will reach you. Our local situation is not deteriorated too much today, but overall, things are not very good, and if we don't see it today, we will see it soon. We are gradually being surrounded. We are forbidden to retreat by orders from above. Today it is minus 35 degrees Celsius, and some say it is minus 42 degrees Celsius. The Russians do not seem to feel it. They attack again and again, and they must attack in such a favorable situation for them. They hope to destroy our army, and therefore cannot stop. I do not know how this will turn out. Only God can help here. The difficulties are piling up like mountains. All attempts to help are thwarted by snow and frost. Day after day you rejoice that nothing terrible has happened. You await the next day with fear. What will it bring? And the night is also frightening, because something could happen then too. It is difficult, very difficult to stand firm. Perhaps it is only possible with the Word of God. My own strength is not enough. Outside, in the clear, endlessly frosty sky, the full moon is shining again. Artillery fire is booming all around. The Russians, who were relatively calm during the day, are probably attacking again. At the very least, he is shelling the villages where our boys are seeking shelter from the cold. Every phone call is terrifying. After all, you don't expect anything good. These are difficult times, my dear Trude. My neighbor Felber has also joined the ranks of the departing. Today he reported sick. That's how it is. January 6th, letter to my wife. The last few days have again been full of anxiety. Yesterday things looked really bad. Today there is reason to be a little calmer, but the situation is still bleak. This unprecedented tug of war has been going on for 30 days now. 30 days of nerve-wracking tension. 30 days of hoping and waiting, and still not the slightest change. But it would be even worse if the troops, with almost unimaginable tenacity and heroism, did not overcome all the hardships of battle, weather, and supply difficulties. In the summer and fall, we thought we had accomplished the unimaginable. Compared to today, it was nothing. The frosts of -30 degrees to -40 degrees ended yesterday. Now it is snowing and the wind is blowing, making the roads impassable. Nothing is in our favor. Everything is against us. We can only move forward on sleds. All other transport is failing or barely working. January 11th, village of Nuzhno. Letter to my wife. Captain von Arnim has been transferred to a military mission in Romania and is leaving tomorrow morning. He will take the letter with him. I think he will still break out of the cauldron, which is already 3/4 closed. Everything is going according to plan, exactly as I reported to my superiors. They rejected all proposals out of fear of the top brass. When it comes to Kluge or Kubler, our new army commander, they are all afraid of those at the very top. And from above come slogans like, "No Napoleonic retreat." Leave your flanks open and give the enemy time to calmly bypass you and attack from the rear. We are hoping for the arrival of fresh divisions, but they are arriving so slowly, drop by drop, and their numbers are too small to pull us out. So the Russians will win their first battle of annihilation against us. It is hard to accept such a fate, when it is so obvious that the cause of it all is a few stubborn heads, and that it could all have been avoided if one big decision to retreat had been made 3 weeks ago, 14 days ago, or even 5 to 6 days ago. There have been plenty of proposals to that effect, but the new high command of the ground forces rejects everything and weighs up whether it is worth giving up 20 kilometers of the 1,200 already conquered or not. At the same time, it is completely irrelevant where we will establish ourselves in Russia. I think the time will come when they will regret everything, but for us, who are forced to suffer, this changes nothing. The situation is already unimaginable. The enemy's pressure is noticeable everywhere. We are already so squeezed that we will soon be suffocated. At -15 degrees, people rarely find shelter, let alone horses. Transportation has practically come to a standstill. Sleds are stuck on congested roads, and today I walked for 4 hours in deep snow in the dark. The first signs of defeat are visible everywhere. Probably in the morning they will completely cut off the main supply route. In a few days, perhaps, the railway as well. And then what? Fighting without ammunition and rations. All my neighbors, the corps commanders, have suddenly disappeared, fallen ill, and so on. Some have been transferred and left urgently. I am forced to stay here, on the front line, with no real way out. That's all for today. If you like the video, please support it with a like and subscribe to the channel. See you all soon.